This episode of Walt Disney World Today is sponsored by MEI and Mousefan Travel, specializing in cruises and packages to Disney and other vacation destinations around the world. For their current offers, just visit their website at www.mousefantravel.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, May 2nd, 2007, and this is episode 251 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm your host, Matt Hochberg of MGMstudios.org. On the show today, we've got Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Matt. Now I remember Johnny Moscone. He spent some time at the state pen. He was known as the Slasher.
Elephant. You know our secret code word? No, behind you.
I hate that attraction.
Sounds dangerous, don't we all? And actually, no one else showed up for the show, but instead of getting Len tested, we got one better. We've got Soundboard Len. How's it going, Len?
Howdy ho, Matt.
All right, well, there you go. So Soundboard Len is better than the real Len anyway.
No cheap plugs tonight. That's good.
So do you keep your soul in a box?
He's already on you, Scopa. I mean, he's there, you know. All right. Well, let's get right to the questions. It's Wednesday. We're answering listener questions. And our first question comes from Lou of the WDW Memories podcast. No, not that Lou.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hey, gentlemen. It's Lou from the WDW Memories podcast. I wrote in last year about my trip in December and wondering about watching the Magic Kingdom fireworks from the Polynesian beach. Anyways, I just have a comment about the parks that I observed and wanted to share with you and hear your thoughts about them. In Le Cellier, Scopa, I know this is your baby, but you never mentioned this, and I think it's a major selling point and a model Disney maybe should use. As my wife and I were being escorted to our table, I almost called her the hotness. The hostess took the time to give us a few cool facts about their homeland and the symbolism of the bread, showing the diversity of their country. Imagine if you were eating in Morocco and the waitress took a second to explain why some ingredient is so important in all their foods.
What's his point?
That Le Cellier does it and other places don't.
Oh, that's true. Well, I always have heralded Le Cellier as not just my favorite my favorite restaurant because of the food. I think that the service there is the best that you can possibly get anywhere on the property. I just have never been disappointed in the service there, and I know that every time I go there, you know, I get the spiel about the bread and everything, and I don't know how many people realize it, but the restaurant itself is designed like Canada, and depending upon where you sit, where you're seated in that restaurant, you're at one of those provinces of Canada or whatever, and there's a lot more to it than just eating. So, you know, in that regard, I agree with Lou that it's more than just a restaurant. It's a little bit of edutainment.
Lou also writes, regarding buying park hopper tickets, I don't know if Disney would frown on this, but say you're taking a 5-day trip to Walt Disney World. That would probably break down to 1 day at Magic Kingdom and MGM, half a day at Animal Kingdom, and a day and a half at Epcot with 1 day left to float. What would stop you from buying a 7-day no hopper and just use 2 days for your Animal Kingdom Epcot and 2 for your float day with a 5-park hopper at $246? Well, before Lou goes on to give the money prices, the problem is you can't use once you use 1 day in one park, you can't go to another park and burn another day. Otherwise, everybody would do that.
Right.
Right. So you can only use one park day in a 24 I don't know if it's a 24-hour period, but in one calendar day. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
You know, we've come up with that idea before, and well, you know, Len, I think did that. Len, right?
Read
Really?
read the fine print.
Exactly. Next email comes from Ray Kastner, who writes, hopefully you'll get this email before Dr. Scopa heads to the Magic Kingdom in the sky. But since he's lasted this long, I'm assuming he'll be around to respond to this. I'm going to have to disagree with Mike Scopa's comment about taking really little ones, babies, to Walt Disney World. It can be done without problems. We've taken 2 of our 3 kids when they were little, and 1 when he was 2 weeks old. Okay, we didn't plan it that way, but we had a trip planned and found out that my wife was pregnant. We both decided we'd go anyway. I will somewhat agree with you that if you've never been to Walt Disney World before, going with an infant is probably not the best idea since you don't really have a clue about the parks anyway, besides the kid issues. If you're a seasoned Walt Disney World visitor, it's really not that much of a problem as long as you're willing to acknowledge that you may not be able to see and do all the things you normally do, and that you let the child dictate the pace. It also helps to have other family along to help share the childcare so you can go on to other attractions. If you can take frequent breaks, try to stay in the shade as much as possible, and take advantage of the baby care centers. It can be done. I could go into much more detail on how we've done it in the past, but that might be a separate show unto itself. I just wanted to point out that we've been able to do it and enjoy the trip, and it can be done. So everyone should do it. Probably not, but it can be done.
Okay, let me respond to Ray. In the first place, I agree 100% with Ray in that if you've never been to Walt Disney World before and you are going down for the first time with an infant or even a toddler, you don't know what you're in for. You really, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many websites you go to, no matter how many people you talk to, nothing is better than actually experiencing it for yourself, because when you get there, things are just a little bit different than no matter how hard you were told how they would be. So I agree. If you've never been down there with a child, then you don't know what to expect. By the same token, if you were there like 3, 5, 10 years ago, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, as a teenager or as a young adult, and now you're going back and you have a young child with you, a baby or an infant or whatever, that's almost just as if you were going for the first time, because things have changed. There are a lot more things. There's a little bit of frustration there, and also Ray points out that it helps to go if you're going with another family, to share that frustration. I just think that if you have a choice, I think that it's best if you wait till the child is 6 or 7.
I tend to agree with Ray. I've mentioned it a couple times. I've gone with a 2-year-old, and it's fine. I think the key for going with any child under the age of 5, I guess it applies to everybody, but really, kids. First, they have to be able to walk on their own sufficiently.
Oh yes.
Not the kind that if you get to the age where they can't walk really well. I'm talking like they don't fall down, that kind of walking. Just from the physical act of it. Anything below that, I think they're just there for the ride. It's going to be extra luggage. It's like taking, a bowling ball in your bag and carrying that around.
It also depends upon the parent, what the parent's attitude is towards park touring. If you are really if you're a Disney geek like us, and if you're a Disney geek like us, I should say, it's going to be really, really frustrating to do as much as you want to do when you have a young child. You have to make sure that the child is not, overheated, that you don't want to wear the child out because the kid could get sick. There's so much to take into consideration. Obviously, Ray has done it before, so he's in the minority because he knows what to expect. He knows how to deal with it. But someone who has never been down with a child before, really, my suggestion is go down with some friends who have a little baby or a little infant and see what they have to go through. And then when it's time, have a child and take your own child down there.
Yeah. It's each their own, that's all. And the other thing I was going to say is that the kids should be fairly attuned towards the characters, meaning should be interested in seeing them and be acclimated so much so that when they see a character, they want to go meet them. Otherwise, it really is a waste, I think.
That's a very good point.
Next email's from Mark of Richmond, Virginia, who writes, "Hey, Walt Disney World Today gang. I really enjoy your show. I used to live in Orlando, only 15 minutes from the park, and of course kept an annual pass for the entire time I was there. I still get back once or twice a year for a park blitz. Your show is great. It is a great way for me to stay current on what's new in the parks and to daydream about going back. Here's my question. I'm amazed by the incredible amount of effort you devote to the program, your websites, and other Disney-related endeavors you're involved with. I understand this isn't your day job for any of you, correct?" That would be correct.
Correct.
How much time, on average, would you say you devote to your Disney obsession each week?
Ooh.
Well, Mike, you were retired and then unretired. I've got. It seems every year I have more quote Disney responsibilities than the year before. I would say that. Out of every 24 hours, I spend, I'd say, approximately 2 hours doing research, writing, listening to podcasts, reading up, easily 2 hours a day. Well, you needed those 2 hours if you're listening to Lou's podcast.
Exactly.
That's 2 hours right there. Crazy. But I mean, I spend it's on my websites and everything like that. I mean, it varies on the day depending on what comes in. If there's been a change or what have you. But on the average, I would say, yeah, so, something in the ballpark of 2 to 4 hours. I would say a day.
Yep.
Depending. Mark also writes, by the way, I loved episode 129 on the Disney widows. On another question, have any of you ever seriously considered moving to the Orlando area so you could be closer to the mouse? Mike?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've often been asked if I'd like to work down there, and I've thought, no, I would not want to, work in my playground. Number two, I can tell you that in talking with Brian Bennett, who about 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, he and his wife Barb and the boys moved from Michigan to just outside of Orlando, and he said it was nice to be able to be that close to the parks and everything. However, he says it kind of watered down the experience because other than in the past, if you go to, it's just like driving to a theme. It's driving to a park and then you're driving home. They miss the resorts. They miss the cutting off of your normal routine, and then you're going on to vacation. That's something that happens when you go down there. Sure, you can go to the parks whenever you want, but it's not the same as leaving your worries and leaving your cares and leaving everything, behind you, jumping on a plane and landing in Orlando. That's the big difference, and that's probably why I don't think I'd ever move down there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, to be honest, I'm planning moving down to Florida, and I think that it's something that is definitely crossing my mind, and I am afraid that is exactly what's going to happen, Mike. That it's not going to be as magical because you don't have that pent up anticipation of a trip. I've only got 34 more days until I go to my trip. Oh, I'm going to Disney World next week, and then you go, and it's that whirlwind tour, and you know what? It leaves you wanting more, and if you get it all the time, it's not. I'm not saying it's not going to be special, but it's not the same.
You won't appreciate it. You won't appreciate it.
It's different. We got a few emails in of listeners vindicating me with their funnel cake. First one's from Jane Hopewood, who writes, "Hi Matt, I was born and raised in New York, and it was always sauce on fried dough. Never had powdered sugar until we moved to New England, Massachusetts. We're also Italian. Keep up the great shows." And we also had an email from Megan, who writes, "Hey Matt, I believe you made the comment about marinara on funnel cake. If someone else made the comment, please pass this on to them." Ew! I grew up in Connecticut and went to the Berlin Fair every year. I love fried dough. The funnel cake that everyone refers to is not the same as the fried dough back home. I now live in Pennsylvania, and the crazy people here have never heard of fried dough and are obsessed with funnel cake. Fried dough is made with pizza dough, and funnel cake is made with a pancake-like batter. I love fried dough, and I need to make it myself here in Pennsylvania, and I always put sauce on it. I would never put the sauce on funnel cake. Sweet dough with savory sauce would make me gag. Love the show. I'll be visiting the world in 4 more days. I think Meg is right. I think maybe I was referring to fried dough. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
Next email is from. Oh, it's from Jim Hart of Chandler, Oklahoma, who writes, "Hey, it's Jim in Oklahoma. Hi, Matt, Mike, and Len. I love your podcast, and you guys do a great job. Mike and Len are also inspiring me to step up my jogging to try some 10Ks in the near future. Disney World and health benefits. What other podcast can give you that?" Len, what do you think about that? Len, that wasn't very nice. My question is about the touring plans for the unofficial guide for Disney MGM Studios. Can you tell me if the touring plans need to be adjusted during Star Wars weekends? I'm assuming that fast passes for autographs, should a person be interested in that, would have to be first in line since they go fast. Since the area behind Star Tours stays very crowded, would Star Tours need to be bumped up higher in line as well? Thanks for answering my questions, and thanks for the great show. Well, obviously this question is for Len. So, soundboard Len, do you have any advice?
Ooh, so sorry.
All right, well, of course, Len, never helpful. I will help you out, Jim, and say that with Star Wars weekends, if you're using the general unofficial guide touring plan, you have to be aware of a couple of things. In terms of what's going on, in terms of wait times for non-Star Wars attractions, there isn't much change. You're going to still see probably the same wait times at Tower of Terror and the Great Movie Ride as you would see on a non-Star Wars weekend day. The problem is, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people there. If you're interested in doing non-Star Wars weekend events, it shouldn't be a big problem. You're gonna have to go through a lot of people, meaning there's gonna be lots of human waves. However, like I said, not a big problem. If you're interested in doing Star Wars weekend attractions, like the celebrities, there's so much to it, and it's hard to really summarize here. I would do an episode on it, but I get lambasted by these guys over here who make fun of me all the time. See? Exactly. So anyway, I will link to a few articles I've written about planning it. But yes, you're right, Jim. That if autographs are what you're interested in, you need to get that done immediately. That should be your priority today. Like I said, there's some articles I've written about this show, and I will I'll link to it in the show, so check that out. Next email's from Roberto, Rob, I think. But anyway, hey guys, great show. Wanted to ask you about RideMax. I know you guys did an interview with him a while back. I'm listening to all your shows for an upcoming trip, and I definitely noticed Len's dislike of the program. Point being, I was wondering what your opinion was on the program. I've been in Disney twice, and I guess I just found out about the trips I did, the trips I did were more commando style than anything, and so I was able to do all the rides. This time around, I'm going to stick with my parents, so I don't know if I can push them like I do my girlfriend. Should I stick to the touring plans from Len's site, use RideMax, or a combination? Well, I don't. What's your opinion on this one?
Well, the thing is, I'm not really into touring plans, but I do know that that Len's data is is pretty deep, and I know that I've contributed to a lot of the data that's there. So I know that, having said that, the quality of his data is such that I have a lot of faith in what he says. Historically, he goes back a long way, so it's constantly being updated. He's been in the business longer than RideMax, so that in itself says a lot. I think that it's going to depend upon if it's not going to hurt to try RideMax, but I mean, if I had to make a choice, and it's not because Len's my friend or whatever. I just know what goes into that data. I just know how much number crunching goes on, and I just know that he's been at it for so long that any advice that is given has a lot of credibility behind it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said, Mike. I would. So, first of all, the adage that something is better than nothing, and I would not recommend RideMax. I've used the Len's touring plans; they do work. I do, and I like them. I would look at them both. I know that RideMax. It's easier to look at Len's because you can just pick up a copy of the unofficial guide, and at worst, go to your library and look at one on the back of the book, and look at it there. So you kind of have that preview option. Whereas RideMax, you have to purchase the software basically. Although I believe there's a money-back guarantee with that. I believe that's what he said when he was on the show, right, Mike?
Yeah, I'd also want to, I'd almost want to go back and listen to the show before I say anything. But I knew that there were some things about RideMax that were lacking that I don't recall. I don't want to say anything bad, but I thought there were no plans for Sundays for some reason. But again, I'm going to add a caveat to that, and I'd suggest listening to the show.
Yeah, I would take a look at some of the. I would use, in your case, with your parents, and perhaps you need to take it down a notch. What's great about Len's book more than anything is that it has recommended times for viewing attractions, generally speaking. So if you go off the touring plan, you say, all right, forget about it. Let's just, do whatever we want to do. You can refer to the book and say, okay, well, it's 2:00. The book recommends that we go do this at this time. That might be a good option to do.
Well, yeah, I agree. I just want to point out a couple other things. There have been times when I have gone down there on a solo trip, and in the middle of the day, I'll call Mr. Tester up, and I'll say, so, big shot, Mr. Mr. Tour Guide. I said, here I am. It's Wednesday. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm standing in front of Splash Mountain. Tell me what the wait time is. And more often than not, he's within about 10 minutes of the wait time.
Really?
Really. All I want to know is there a soundboard Scopa? Because if that's the case, I'm not going to miss another show.
We're working on it. Newell's hard at work on it. Next email is from John Hoskins, where I say, guys, great show. I noticed that Disney and McDonald's let their contract expire this summer, meaning no more Disney stuff and Happy Meals, and no more cross-promotion. In a lot of the press, Disney has given the excuse that they wanted to distance themselves from the image of McDonald's that was getting as being unhealthy. How does this affect the status of McDonald's in Disney World? I was there this fall, and McDonald's was selling fries in Frontierland. They still have one of the few restaurants on property outside of a park that I know of. Well, they're still having, as far as what I've observed in my perception of the deal, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is that this may be a case of them downplaying the food, but the attractions like Dinosaurs sponsored by McDonald's, I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, I don't think so.
I think that they're just trying to downplay it, whereas before they were, McDonald's sponsor, McDonald's our corporate partner. But I haven't heard anything about McDonald's totally dropping off the map in the parks. I know that in the studios, Fairfax Fries on Sunset Boulevard is still says, sponsored by it's McDonald's fries. So
yeah, there's still a McDonald's down just around the corner from All Stars, right?
Yeah, that's the one that he was referring to, and it's still there. I wonder what it would take to knock that down, but I don't see that happening. Next email is from Rachel in Texas, formerly of Florida. Hey guys, let me be like everyone else and start off by saying that I love the show. I am so addicted that I am listening to older episodes again. My question is, we're going to Happy Mecca at the end of July. I know. It's a crazy time, but it's the only time we can go. We are intermediate Disney goers and DVC members and would like to have a nice dinner, but still have to bring our two kids, 11 years and 2 years old, with us for a sit-down restaurant. So which sit-down restaurant will be best for us? We want to do something special this time. Not that bringing our kids is a bad thing, but we want them to enjoy the meal too. We did go to Primetime before, and sorry, Matt, we will not be going there again. We're hoping to go someplace in Epcot or even one of the resorts. Anyway, love the show. Keep up the good work.
How old are they, Matt, again? How old are the kids?
11 and 2.
Whispering Canyon.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Mike. There's two things I'll say that. First of all, to Rachel, with Primetime, your experience is so dependent on the cast member you get. Right. Some are a lot better than others, and it can either be really fun or it's just food in a different place. And that may be the case. The other thing is, let's assume for a second here that she got the good experience and she didn't like it. Then wouldn't you think that Whispering Canyon would not be a good idea?
Whispering Canyon is almost along the same line because depending upon the server you get, it could be entertaining, or it can be just another, visit to a restaurant, a themed restaurant.
I was thinking, with those kinds of ages, I don't know if 11 years. If your 11-year-old is into the character still, a character meal would be great. Crystal Palace would be fun for them, or perhaps Chef Mickey's.
Breakfastosaurus.
If they're looking for Epcot, someplace at Epcot that's good for the kids,
11-year-old boy or 11-year-old girl?
Doesn't say. That's what I was wondering too.
I was thinking of Norway.
I was gonna, what I'm gonna recommend, Mike? I'm gonna say teppanyaki in Japan.
Really? Oh yeah, that's an idea.
Everyone likes, sitting there having the food prepared for you in front of you on the table over there. They do the little song and dance. I think that's my pick for you.
That would keep the 2-year-old entertained too.
Oh yeah, they maybe burn their hands, but that's okay.
It's the thought that counts.
Exactly. Next email is from Evan Hank, who writes, I'm going to Disney World soon. Would like to know what I should do to be able to fit in time to do the VMK quests from VMK Central at the Main Street Cinema. Well, Mike, I have a suggestion. Do you have anything, Mike?
I have nothing, as Bill Murray would say. I got nothing.
I'll say to you that you need, I would say about 2 or 3 hours to go around Magic Kingdom. I would do it as a supplement to your day. It shouldn't be, I'm going to Disney World. This is my yearly trip, and you're going to spend your Magic Kingdom day doing that. I think your time is far better spent elsewhere. That, or I would actually pick up the quest. Basically, for those listeners who don't know, it's VMK's Virtual Magic Kingdom. It's a free online game. You can go to vmk.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. And you do these quests in the park, and then you bring them back to the cast members, and you get credits for special things that you get in the game. So, and you get these are basically like trivia things. Like if you're Lou Mangello, I'm sure you jump up and down, wave your arms. So what you might want to do, Evan, is grab a copy of the quest when you enter the park, and then as you're going through your regular day in the park, you might notice some answers to some of the questions because they're asking like what's the name of so and so or those kinds of things. Next email is from Nick, who goes, guys, why do you keep on saying that everyone going to French Quarter should go to that certain spot? Was it Building 5 and Floor 1? What's so great about it? How can I... Well, let's answer that question. What's so great about... It's Building 5, right, Mike?
It's Building 5, yes. And the reason why it's talked about so much is that Building 5, and if you happen to get the first floor and you happen to get the side facing the food court, Carol and I happened to have gotten that room, that area a couple of years ago, and I could walk out of the room and I was about 5 or 10 yards, well, maybe 10, 15 yards from the spa. Yep. We were within like 50 paces of the food court. It's just centrally located.
And it's another, 10, 20 yards to the bus area.
Yeah, and you're close to the laundry, you're close to the pool, you're close to the spa, you're close to the food court, you're close to, the lobby. Who wouldn't want to be there?
You're staying at Port Orleans French Quarter. You're taking advantage of the size of the resort, and by staying there, you're just so close to everything. And you might say, okay, it's not that important to me. When you're tired and your feet hurt because you've been in the park all day, it makes such a big difference just to be able to, get off the bus and be in your room in literally a minute.
Yeah, I want to make one more point, and that is that unlike Pop Century, unlike the Caribbean Beach Resort, and I'd almost go as far as to say, unlike the All-Stars, where in those three resorts, when you are close to the central area, when you are close to the general pool area, whatever, it's somewhat noisy. And I can tell you that it's not that way at Port Orleans French Quarter. For some reason, it's just different. Riverside is a little noisier, but French Quarter, I don't know what it is, but the sounds are absorbed, and it's really quite different.
It's a good point, Mike. Because every other, a lot of other resorts like the ones you named and others, you don't want to be staying by the food court,
right?
And things like that, because it's going to be, or the pool, for instance, because it can be louder. But really, I've always found it to be very quiet. Nick also wants to know, how can I request the building if I'm already booked on my trip?
Call your travel agent and let him or her know that that's what your preference is, and see if they can make the change. It would be it's so much easier to get your requests in if you have a travel agent do the booking for you, because they have a relationship with the people down there, and it's a lot easier for them to call up and speak to someone who they have spoken to before and say, hey, could you do this for my client? Whereas if you're booking directly, it's still a possibility that you'll get it, but it's not as good of a
If you're doing it by yourself, Nick, the way to do it is you have to call 5 days before your check-in date and call the front desk of the resorts, in this case French Quarter. You're not calling the 407W Disney number, you're calling the actual resort. Google around for the number, or maybe if I'm feeling nice, I'll post the number in the show notes. And then you need to call up 5 days before, at least, and call and make that request. They can't guarantee it, but they'll try to honor it. But of course, like Mike said, maybe if we're not saying that travel agents can, but they may have a better rapport with somebody, which may lead to better results than if you do it on your own. But again, it's not to say you can't do it on your own. Well, we've got one last question, and it's good for Mike Scopa to finish us up on. It's from Jane Brown, who writes, I am an annual park holder, and I just got my annual pass. I want to know how soon I can expect the latest Mickey monitor. I've had an annual pass for many, many years. This year I had to let it lapse for a year due to hurricane-related issues in West Palm Beach. I'm now in Beaufort, South Carolina, an easy drive to Walt Disney World, and would like to make reservations for a few long weekends.
Okay.
Did you have this problem before with not getting your Mickey monitor?
I think the thing is that, Jane, and anyone who is thinking about their Mickey monitor, you have to remember that if your annual pass has run out and you just renewed it, and you have just a voucher, I don't believe that's looked upon as being an activated annual pass, and because of that, you may not be receiving your Mickey monitor. I think that's the way it goes.
Okay. Didn't you? I thought you had. Maybe it was one of the other guys, Len or Newell, that didn't get it, and you had to make a call or something.
It wasn't me. It might have been Mike.
Yeah, maybe. Well, at any rate, if you're having problems, I would call the annual pass number on the back of your annual pass. I know it's DisneyWorld.com/passholder is the website for the annual passes. I'll put the link in there, but you can just give them a call and make sure that they've got everything. You don't have mailing address or something like that. Well, that's it for us today. Again, this show has been sponsored by MEI and Mousefan Travel, who specialize in cruises and packages to Disney and other vacation destinations around the world. For their current offers, just visit their website at mousefantravel.com. And that's it for us today. If you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.today.com. You can also email us at questions@www.today.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hodgeberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Ooh, so sorry.